Good morning, everybody, and welcome back for more Pokemon Soul Silver. Now, what I'm doing is that I'm going to deposit my Sudowoodo in the PC because I'm going to be heading off to catch Lapras now, and I would like to be able to check its nature while I'm still down in that cave, and I can't do that if my party's full, obviously, so that's why I put in the PC. This Pokemon Center, by the way, is the one at the entrance of the Union Cave, since what we're going to be doing right now is catching Lapras. And yes, you heard that right, I'm going to be catching Lapras now. But you're going to be asking, but Slowflake, aren't we, like, Sunday today? And yes, you'd be right. But there is a big but. I know for a fact that I'm not going to be able to record on Friday, so that means if I'm going to play by the book, I'm going to need to wait until the Friday after that in order to catch Lapras. And I don't know about you guys, but I have absolutely no interest in waiting almost 2 weeks to get my next team member that is going to need to be leveled up to catch up in terms of levels to Crobat and Gengar, so that's going to take a while. And so I don't want those two to hog up all the experience for an even longer period of time, because that's just going to make it harder to level up in the long run. And speaking of leveling up, I grinded my Wooper a little bit. The reason for that is very simple. You saw me give it Surf a couple videos ago. That's going to come in handy because on top of checking for good nature for that Lapras, I also want a water absorb one. Yeah, I'm sort of picky, but it doesn't mean that I'm going to go for, like, modest or timid or nothing else. I'm mostly going for water absorb, then with a decent nature. And the purpose of leveling up that Wooper is because I'm going to try and use Surf on Lapras to try and see if it's water absorb before I make any attempt at catching it, otherwise I could just load. But yeah, I leveled it up because it's going to have to take a hit from the Lapras, so I want to make sure it's able to survive that hit before I make any attempts at catching it. And you may notice that my Gengar is in the lead right now, even though its level is higher than Crobat's. Very good reason for that, because I'm very, very close to getting Shadow Ball, and great, a Marowak. Well, this is the perfect example to show you what I mean by that. My offensive output sucks ass against Pokemon that are ground type and physically defensive, such as Graveler. I had to fight a few of them while grinding the Wooper, so that's why. As you can see, Wing Attack wouldn't do much, U-Turn would do even less, and Thunderbolt would obviously do nothing at all. So, yeah, am I going to level up in this fight? Because I think I got that critical at a very good time. It would have been a 4-hit KO instead. So, yep, I actually got Shadow Ball in this fight. So, I'm not sure on that, but I checked the teams for those trainers beforehand to see how long it would take. And, yeah, it's another Marowak. So, we're going to play a little comparisons game. It would have taken 4 hits had it not been for that critical to take down that first Marowak. Now the second one, 1-hit KO! This is the difference that I was talking about. It's really, really worth your time to try and go get Shadow Ball as soon as possible. You just saw the difference, especially on physically defensive Pokemon, and it is massive. So now that this is done, I'm just going to swap my moves around a bit. I like having my strongest move at the top, and I'm also going to put Crobat in the lead, since, as I said, it's still 2 levels behind, even though it gained 1 while grinding the Wooper. So, yeah, as I was saying, I had to face a few Gravelers before, while grinding the Wooper, and I was not completely helpless because of my high levels, but still, they took a lot of time to take down, like 4 hits, like what you just saw with the Marowak, and quite frankly, it sort of annoyed me that I couldn't do anything with Thunderbolt because Graveler was immune to it. But, yeah, I actually found myself wishing for Boldors instead of Gravelers. Yeah, you may think I'm off my rocker. Oh my god, Slowflake is completely crazy. He's wishing for Boldors instead of Gravelers. Yeah, I think we all hate Boldor to death because of that sturdy ability. But I still would have been able to do huge damage with Thunderbolt since, well, Boldor's Mono Rock, it's not ground type, it's just rock, whereas Graveler is both. And idea, I'm going to try to use U-turn to send Gengar in so that if it tries using another normal move, I'm not going to need to take any damage at all, especially since it's used. Oh my god! It just got predicted badly there, and that one really hurt. Kangaskhan has pretty decent attack, nothing exceptional, but that still freaking hurts. So I'm going to be relying on Shell Bell for healing. Hopefully I can get some HP back before fighting Lapras, even though, yeah, I still think getting Crobat up there in levels is more of a priority in the long term. But I'm still going to try and make sure to give Gengar some love before this is over. And there are a few trainers down there which will allow me to do just that, but that's going to be a little bit later on. And, by the way, I think I told some of you about my plans for my post-game team. And back then I said I'd be replacing Lapras with Suicune once I got it. But after thinking about it long and hard, I think I'm going to be keeping Lapras throughout the entire game. The difference in stats is not that big. It's like 40, 45 points. Maybe I don't remember the exact number. But, ow, how much am I going to take from that? Okay, 16. I can live with 16. Of course, I'm probably going to need to use a Roost if I'm going to go through this place alive without using any items. So, yeah, I really don't regret putting Roost on it. It really pays for itself at times like this. But, yeah, Lapras has a few perks that Suicune doesn't have. Access to Thunderbolt and Water Absorb being the two main ones. It really helps having Thunderbolt on my water type, especially since Water Absorb pretty much neuters their offensive output. And so, yeah, it could be a good water type killer, though I'm going to have Raikou as well for that. But the more the merrier, right? But yeah, there's that. And there's also the fact that the set for Suicune that I used in Crystal, well, it doesn't work that well anymore. Because if you remember back then, if a Sleep Talk picked Rest, then it gave you full healing at the cost of resetting the sleep counter. But now, if that happens, it just does absolutely nothing, and you just wasted a turn. So it's been significantly nerfed since then, which is why I think Lapras has a huge edge in terms of movesets. That there are admittedly two advantages to using Suicune over Lapras. There's the fact that Suicune is much faster, which could come in handy at some points in this LP. But the one that really hurts the most, in my opinion, is the fact that I won't be able to annoy the crap out of those people who think using legendaries is unprofessional. Their word, not mine. I couldn't be able to think that stuff up if I tried. And speaking of professionals, I've been thinking lately, I think we've all heard at this point of the massive price cut on the 3DS, as I don't think there's, there's probably a hidden item in there actually, but I'm not gonna spend too much time looking for it. As I said, I'm not covering these in these LPs. Maybe if I ever do an LP of the deluxe version of Black and White someday, but that's still a long ways off. As far as I'm concerned, this is my last Pokemon LP for a long, long time. But yeah, the 3DS price drop. I think we all came to the same conclusion. Shut up! Shut up! Thank you. So yeah, I think we all have the same idea that they're doing this because they're panicking because the 3DS isn't selling enough. But at the same time, who's really surprised when the only system seller is a remake of a 13-year-old game? Although we're talking about a great remake of a 13-year-old masterpiece, still, it's really no surprise that they're struggling to sell. Just wait until the library builds up, and they're going to sell a lot more. So I'm wondering two things, in fact. One, whether it would have been a better idea to just tough it out those few months where Ocarina of Time is still the only system seller, and then make more money in the long run when the good games start coming out, which, by the way, suggests to me that they released the 3DS a little too early, because, well, yeah, looking at that library, at that early library, not just necessarily at launch, but in the first 2 months, anyone would have been able to tell you that, wow, this is actually sort of crappy for a lineup. So yeah, I think it might have been a better idea to just release it a few months later, or, and that leads perfectly into the second point I'm trying to make, or I'm wondering if Nintendo aren't kicking themselves for allowing Game Freak to move on with Black and White on the DS, instead of, just telling them, whoa, hold your horses, just wait a year, maybe even just a couple months, and make those games on the 3DS instead, because that is going to sell systems like hotcakes. We all know that Pokémon main series games are among the highest selling games ever, so yeah, I don't know why they decided that. Maybe they thought that reaching out to the massive user base of the regular DS would make them more money in the long run, but quite frankly, I'm not sold on that idea, because I personally think that if they released it for the 3DS, well, obviously the sales for the games would have been lower, but not that much lower that it's not worth having that many more systems sold. But then again, I'm not a marketing head, I'm just a gamer, so what do I know? The only thing that I know is that Nintendo's never been very good at marketing their products. They make some of the best products out there, both software and hardware, but they have no fucking clue on how to sell those things. The Wii and DS, they struck gold with that because those things pretty much sold themselves, whereas I foresee a lot more persuasion being needed for the Wii U and the 3DS. Not that I'm bashing the Wii U and the 3DS right off the bat, of course, but it's just that from a marketing perspective, I can't see them being nearly as easy to sell. And, by the way, just to get that out there, I think fighting those unevolved starter Pokemon were actually quite a relief, compared to those Raticates and Quagsires that would survive the hits I gave them. Especially Quagsire, because it's yet another one of those ground-type defensive Pokemon. Physically defensive, rather, because they struggle a little bit more on the special end. Not that... Well, actually, for fully evolved Pokemon, they're sort of a shame all around, except for their Dream World ability, which at least makes them somewhat usable. So, just to prove what I was about to say, yep, another Pokemon that survives in the red. We've had a lot of these in this video. We've had a few of these in the Burn Tower as well. Lots of coughings where my level was practically doubles of theirs, and that still wasn't enough. So, in a way, this is practically the Platinum LP all over again, with everything just barely surviving in the red instead of dying peacefully. Is it going to happen here? Well, not in the red, but still, a 2-hit KO. So, I'm going to finish off that Golbat. That's going to be all for today. So next time, don't miss it, because I'm going to be catching myself a Lapras.